We're going to look at Title 22 or community care licensing today. The biggest things we're going to look at are starting and maintaining relationships with licensing, so having good working relationships, and then some resources for licensing. So this entire class I've tried to link to the regulations as we've gone through. So what are safety and health issues, marketing. I didn't even know marketing, that licensing had this whole marketing thing. It is really simple. You just have your license number on all of the marketing materials. But so as we've gone through the class, I've tried to put the biggest regulations in that PowerPoint so that you knew exactly what licensing thought. But my disclaimer is that this is not a class on licensing. This is an administrative and management class. So I'm teaching you the bare basics of having a program for children, keeping them healthy and safe, providing developmentally appropriate care, and then also the basics of managing staff. So as part of working with licensing, you need to do your due diligence within your own program. You need to work with your own analyst. You need to attend your own orientations. You need to do this on your own so that you know what the regulations are and that you are in compliance with them. So we need to develop and maintain relationships. We need to be able to work well with them to make sure that our program is quality and that it is meeting the health and safety needs of all the children in our program on a daily basis, because these regulations are designed to keep children safe. And so as part of a quality program, we adhere with these regulations. So this is child care licensing, community care licensing, Title 22. This is their mission statement. So they are protecting the most vulnerable population. So this is adult child care and child care, to make sure that regardless of age, ethnicity, race, socioeconomic status, that every child is in a regulated child care facility that takes their health and safety very seriously. So they just want to make sure that they prevent anything bad from happening, and they protect children by having child care systems provide quality services on a daily basis. So that's really just their licensing mission: protect our vulnerable populations in out-of-home care. There's going to be two sections to this. The first is working with licensing. So on an individual basis, how do you work with the licensing department and your analyst? And then the second part will be just some resources. So I can't link to every single regulation. You know, if I knew every single thing about licensing and I could make it so user-friendly that all you had to do was click here and there and there, you know, I would write an ebook, I would sell it for $1, and I would still be a millionaire, because there's at least 1 million people in California who would buy this book about licensing. I know a bit about licensing, but I don't know every single regulation, so I'm giving you resources so that you can go out and make sure that your individual program is licensing compliant. So you're a new director, or you're new to a program as an established director. What should you do? You need to go online and you need to watch the videos. They're fantastic. They've gotten much better in the last couple years about releasing these videos that go over the basics of their licensing compliance program. Then, if you're new to a program or a new director, I think it's really good to perform the self-assessment that I talked about last week. So assessing yourself as far as if your program is in compliance, are you in compliance, are your personnel files in compliance, and your environment in compliance. So making sure that everything is tip-top shape so that you know that you're starting from a good, healthy, and safe place. And then attending orientations online or in person, depending on what the licensing requirements are in your own particular individual setting. So you might need to go online, you might need to go in person, depending on the program and who you are as a director. Then the most important thing is during that first site visit, so when your analyst first comes out, for whatever reason that they're coming out, either because a parent has called, something happened, and those are unfortunate situations, or if it's just an annual site visit, you really need to come with an attitude of wanting to work together and learn from the analyst. So let's say you've been doing this 35 years and you know everything about it, you still need to come at your analyst with like being polite and respectful and, you know, having a smile on your face and wanting to work with them so that they know that they can develop a working relationship with you and that you're going to take what they say seriously and implement any suggestions that they have into your program. And then also know, for all of us, not just new directors or new to a program or new to a new job, that it can make you feel anxious. It definitely can make the teachers feel anxious that, licensing has shown up and they're in their classroom and they feel like they're snooping around. But you as a director most likely will feel it as well. I know I do. You get to know sometimes the people's car and you see them pull up and you're just like, oh God. Knowing that, taking a deep breath and walking out there with a smile on your face, ready to learn and work with them is going to go a really long way in making you feel better about your program and will help you be able to work with them. Let's say you want to start your own FCC, so your in-home care, or you want to start your own child care program or part-day program, co-op, whatever it is that you want to start, you need to become licensed. So the best thing is that you need to go to their website and you need to look at the information about the orientations, which I've linked, the application process and the licensing process, both for child care centers and family child care systems. And this will happen within your state licensing office. So you'll go down into San Diego or up into Riverside and you will meet with them and you will start the application and the licensing process. There is a one-time licensing fee for new licensees, and it should just be one time for every time you get a new license. And you might also have to have a business license. The fire department might have to come out, and you might also have to have planning department approval in order to make sure that you're like ADA compliant, which is American with Disabilities Act, like the doors are wide enough, there's ramps, stuff like that. And then fire department will be looking at obviously fire issues, that there's sprinklers, fire extinguishers, that type of stuff. So those are additional hoops that you might have to jump through in order to be licensed. I'm taking my daughter just 2 hours a week while I volunteer at my twin school. She's going to a little school that's just opening. So it was a vacant child care center for many years in my neighborhood. And somebody bought it and they are rehabbing it. And license gave them a conditional permit for 4 hours. So they can only have kids for a couple hours. So I just bring her there on Friday afternoons. But it's going to be great for me to kind of see and talk with the program as they get the fire department to come out. They had to widen a couple doors. Licensing came out. They had to put more shade up on the playground. They needed to replenish the wood chips, that type of stuff. And then planning department came out as well to look at their parking places and stuff like that. So it's been interesting for me to see them go through this process of how they become licensed and kind of how long it takes as well. So they are bringing in income as far as being able to take kids for 4 hours. And then they're also trying to get kids on that waiting list because they take state subsidies as well, so that when they actually do open, they'll start with full enrollment in order to kind of regroup some of these costs that they've had to put out in the beginning in order to just get this building up and running. Okay, so you've probably met with your analyst, a site visit, or you're new, something like that. And then there's when things happen. So let's say something bad happened. A child got seriously hurt, a staff member got seriously hurt, there was an incident with the parent, somebody was unsupervised, anything else that would warrant an incident report. And a couple weeks ago, we talked about incident reports. I showed you an example, and hopefully you downloaded it for your resource file. But the most important thing is that you report. So you file an incident report and you send it to licensing. So please don't cover it up. Don't pretend it didn't happen. Don't try to handle it in-house. A lot of programs that might have multiple sites might want to okay, we're going to figure this out on our own. Don't do that. Licensing probably will find out. A parent will call, as is their right. Newspapers, like small city papers like the Coast News or the Union Tribune, something like that, jump on things like this that happen in childcare centers. These are interest stories, they kind of gossipy. They actually look for these types of things. So if a child was unsupervised at like a park or a playground, or they wandered away from your center, or something happened, if they hear about it because of gossip and stuff like that, they will put it in the newspaper. And that would be the worst case scenario, is if this gets into the news and licensing didn't know first. So if something has happened, you need to tell licensing about it. You need to own up to the fact that you made a mistake, and you need to take the steps in order to make it not happen again. And that might mean termination of staff if children were really hurt or unsupervised especially. It might mean putting up gates, putting bells on doors. There's lots of things that you can do in order to make sure that this never happens again. So the biggest thing is that you tell licensing about it so that they can help you keep children healthy and safe. So what if parents are upset? So use your customer service techniques, try to find a resolution with them. So going beyond customer service, the PowerPoint that I had a couple weeks ago, trying some techniques to try to help them and resolve the problem. But always knowing that it is their right to call licensing. That's why we have those sheets in the classroom and in our programs and in our FCC homes, is it is their right to call licensing if they have an issue. If it's an unreasonable family, stand by your program. You know, maybe you have some shade structures up there. You have the shade sails, but there was a rip, and you and your maintenance guy climbed up there and you sewed it, but the parent thinks that it looks really tacky. You know, sorry, I don't have $60,000 to have a long-term fix. This is what we're able to do right now. So that might be an unreasonable demand. They call licensing. Licensing is most likely going to agree with you if it's unreasonable. They might offer suggestions on ways that you can get money or things that you can do or other ways that you can provide shade, but you stand by your program. You're doing the best you can and providing the most quality that you can. If they do have a substantiated complaint, you're going to just do what you do if there's a deficiency or violation. You're working with your analyst to find out solutions and ways that you can change your program in order to provide the best care for your kids. But you might feel a little bit anxious about this family or even a little bit angry with them. A lot of times we'll have feelings of, you went behind my back, or why didn't you bring this to my face? It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. They did you a favor, especially if it was a substantiated complaint. At the end of the day, they're making your program better. You might feel a little bit betrayed by how they did it, but if they had a complaint and you're working with the analyst and you're able to make the changes, then they've done the best for the program that they could do in that moment. So taking a deep breath, smiling at the family, giving them the best customer service that you can to reassure them of the relationship that you have, and by making sure that the teachers and you are providing the best excellent care for the child that they can do. So just taking a deep breath, knowing that you have some emotions about this, but that you are providing the best care that you can, and you just need to focus on that. So here's some licensing resources. So these are just ways that you can continue to provide healthy and safe environments. And they're just ways that you can stay updated and things like that. The most important thing is downloading the 150-page licensing regulation handbook and reading through it, or having it on your desktop so that you can kind of see if you're running a program to make sure that you're compliant and doing the self-assessment. Those are the biggest things that you can do. But I'm just going to be providing some resources so that you can learn some more updates and stay abreast of any changes within regulations. So your biggest reference to is Title 22, Division 12, Child Care Facility Licensing Regulations. And it's about 150 pages, and these are all the regulations that you need to know. And then the law, or the act, the Child Daycare Act, is also listed here. And this is kind of the overreaching law that allows us to have these regulations and be able to come into our programs and make sure that we're providing healthy and safe materials and environments. So this is the governing authority, so that we can maintain compliance for the children in our care. So here's the link as well. This is resources for providers. It's our laws and regulations, and I like it because it includes the evaluator's manual, which will help you understand how they evaluate, so that you can kind of understand when they come out, or their deficiencies and things like that. What are they looking for, and how do they make those determinations? And here's the manual for family child care. So even if you're a small family or a large family, this is the manual, and it also includes information about the co-op programs. So if parents and families have programs where they engage in supporting each other through a co-op program, then this is also where you would find it. But the code section also goes into family daycare homes, licensees, trainings that they need to have, emergency preparedness, things like that. So this is the link for the FCC manual. So the Child Care Advocate Program is probably the best resource for anybody who's working with licensing. So if you are licensed, then being part of this advocate program and subscribing to get updates and quarterly information sheets will be really, really helpful for you. the updates, if anything kind of changes, how do they let you know? And then also the quarterly information sheets, like anything that's been a little bit difficult, like sunscreen, medication, anything like that, they have these information sheets that you can print out and you can train your staff on, and you can understand a little bit more about what the licensing regulations are when it comes to some of these issues. This is a great program, and I've linked to it so that you can go ahead and use this as a resource. So working with licensing can be really anxiety producing. So just knowing and understanding it's a valid emotion to be a little bit anxious when somebody comes out and they're looking at your site, or even reading through the materials and being like, God, I don't understand this, or there's so many regulations. Just knowing and accepting the fact that you might be a little bit anxious about it. But the best way to get over that anxiety is to develop a strong understanding of the regulations by working with advocacy programs, reading the regulations yourself, doing the self-assessments, and keeping on top of those updates. That's going to be the best way for you to feel confident about your program and that you are in compliance with these regulations. And by knowing these regulations, that's going to make your program quality so that you will work with licensing really well.